A big reason that dating is a disaster, for young men especially, is because they've never been this conservative. At least in about 50 years, they haven't been as conservative as they are now. And the same is for the women, but in the other way. And it's not like it was 50 years ago or whatever, where the conservative men would say, well, it's okay, different opinions and whatever. Now they're like, no, this is a strong veto, because it comes down to their values. And they're finally standing up and saying, no, virtue is important. And I'm not going to lower my standards. The women don't like this very much. They're going to call the men names and say they just want to control them and stuff. The men are like, fine. I'd rather have no one than settle for a degenerate, basically. And I think it's great. I don't want you to be alone, but I don't want you to settle. Especially not when, if you settle for someone who lacks virtue, does not share your same values, it's going to lead you down a path that nobody wants to go. It's already very dodgy whether or not you're going to end up as one of the 50% that it does not work out for. So the young men aren't taking the risk. They're not putting up with it. They've got standards. And no matter how much the young women tantrum, it's not going to change anything. In fact, it's a good thing, because then they reveal themselves, as we have seen in the last several days. They reveal themselves disgustingly. And it's like, thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you for smacking me in the face with a red flag. Because it saves them. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about that big dating divide and a little bit of examples of how that's going. So welcome back to Far From Eden. This channel is called Far From Eden because Eden was a perfect place, right? And we are not there anymore. And we know what ended that perfect place. But I got to thinking about it, and I thought, we are far from Eden, but at the same time, every one of us is standing at that tree, having that conversation with that snake, and making a decision. We all know who the one was out of the two people that listened to the snake and took his advice. And it seems to me, especially upon reflecting on the last several days and all of those disgusting videos on TikTok, especially, of people reveling in Charlie Kirk's assassination. They're reveling in it. And it really shows you what they are. A lot of people were unaware of the evil in society. And I just want you to take a second, because you guys have probably noticed this already, but take a second and think, who were the majority of people celebrating? Who were the majority of people saying, oh, well, I'm not going to mourn, etc.? Who were they? Were they men? No. And if they were a little, little light in the loafers, as we used to say. So this is what Gen Z men have been dealing with. This is how small the pool of women is for them. And even then, you don't know how many people are putting on, the act of pretending like, oh yes, I will submit to my husband. I will be loving and kind and blah, blah, blah. So it's a very small pool of women. This was in USA Today. Gen Z women, have a deep political divide. It's making dating a nightmare. Kelly Shay's date showed up half an hour late to the bar, where they were supposed to meet. And things only got worse from there. Notice where it's starting off. Notice the bias where it's already starting off. The snake in the garden was a propagandist. That's what he was. And that's who Eve listened to. The snake's not stupid. He knows who his target audience is. And he knows if he gets to her, it'll get to Adam. The same thing has been happening in the West. Get to the women, bring down the men. But what I love is Gen Z men, the majority of them are saying, nope, not going to do it because I see the evil. And I'm not going to make the same mistake Adam did. When he finally arrived, Shay, a now 23-year-old who was studying international politics at the University of Delaware at the time, says they got to talking. She asked him one of her go-to first date questions. What is your most controversial take? Looking for a fight right away. This is not how you ask the question, but you see, let's look for a fight right away. That's not, let me explore your worldview, blah, blah, blah. Nope. I mean, that's like almost get up from the table. And then she goes on, I do believe that everybody has deep down inside of them a controversial take, she says. This man, he first was like, I don't have any. And I was like, that's not true. Tell me what comes to mind. And then he thinks about it for a second and he was like, oh, I think being one of the rainbow people is wrong. That was a good one. Like, lady, he's testing you too. All right? You're being tested too. You don't just get to test the men. They're testing you too. It's because of instances like this that Shay, who describes herself as solidly left-wing, draws a hard line when it comes to dating and politics. If someone's on the far right, she's not interested. If someone's moderate or center-right, in the vein of John McCain or Mitt Romney, she says she might give them a chance. Right. Kind of flimsy, weaker guys, not really laying it down. Yeah, somebody she can run all over. That's what she's looking for. And as far as a far-right person, we all know that's we only seem far right because they move so far to the left. Quote, politics is definitely a factor in my dating, Shay says. If someone matches with me or not matches with me, but they like my profile or whatnot, and it says conservative, I will absolutely X them. I do think I'm okay with a difference in political opinions to a certain extent. I draw a line when it comes to certain issues, such as human rights. I wonder if the little ones that are in the uterus count. Probably not. She's not alone. Oh, we know. In addition to the many pitfalls of online dating, Gen Z is also having to navigate a dating landscape marked by steep political polarization between men and women. An April poll by NBC News found the partisan divide between men and women ages 18 to 29 to be wider than that of any other age range, with 53% of Gen Z women identifying as Democrats. 53% of Gen Z women identifying as Democrats. Remember, if they look at themselves as democratic socialists or communists or whatever, that's not in there. So as far as being on the left, it's way more than that because Democrat is moderate for what a lot of these young women are. Compared with just 35% of Gen Z men. On the flip side, 38% of men surveyed called themselves Republican versus just 20% of young women. Yeah. And once again, a lot of them are going to say, yeah, I don't really align with the rhinos. So that's where I see these stats. You guys let me know if you think it's a little misleading. I'm so suspicious of any kind of, propaganda. And it's coming out of USA Today. So there it is. The political gender divide is yet another romantic hurdle for a generation that's having less hanky-panky and burned out on dating apps. And they're burned out for good reason. The hookup and breakup culture is just absolutely toxic. Quote, it's easier to align yourself with a political identity now than it was maybe back then because of technology. And I do think it funnels into certain sects, Shay says. So I do think it fragments and segments people, making it harder to find common ground when it comes to dating. Yeah. There are some people who don't want to find common ground. They want to bring you to your ground. And that's how I see the young women. They're not looking for common ground. They're looking for you to agree with them. And this is a problem in many marriages of all generations. She needs you to agree with her. And if you don't respect her. You don't listen to her. You don't want her to be her own person. All those things. I'm sure you guys have heard things like that. How politics is impacting dating for Gen Z. Politics has become an increasingly fraught topic in the realm of dating, with many unwilling to date across the aisle. A 2020 Pew Research report found 71% of Democrats said they probably or definitely would not date someone who voted for Trump. About half of Republicans, 47%, said they probably or definitely wouldn't date someone who voted for Biden. And it's a value system. It's a worldview and a value system. It's not about Trump and it's not about Biden. It's not about Democrat, Republican. This is not about, tax structure or anything like that. This is values. That's what it's about. And the people who have listened to the snake are, their values are different. As we have seen laid bare this week, from Irina to Charlie. We've seen it laid bare. The divide is obvious. I think the shift is the awareness and the resolve of people who want to conserve the values that made the West great. And the left would like to say, oh, human rights, this and that, but that's a cover for them. That's a virtue signal for them. And the Gen Z men know it. And because of that also, it's not just a shift with Gen Z. I think the older men, millennials and Gen X, I'm just going to leave the boomers out of this a little bit. I think there are some that recognize it in the boomers, but you guys know a lot of them are set in their ways. Not the ones that are here, but they kind of got set in their ways and I'm not sure that they understand how bad it's gotten. Maybe they do this week, not sure. They watch cable news and, that kind of a thing. So that makes it difficult. But those of us who have moved to online and X, and we see what people are really saying and how people really are, the evil has been laid bare. It's no longer left and right. It hasn't been for a while, but now it's obvious. It's not left and right. It's good versus evil. It's godlessness and faithful. So you guys should not compromise your values and your virtues when it comes to relationships, dating, and even if you're in a relationship right now, because I know a lot of you write to me and you comment and you're like, I'm stuck. I haven't seen my family in forever because, she doesn't like my family or whatever. And you don't want to lose your kids. I get it. But I think recognizing the war and finding a way to still say what you know is true is very important. And I know it's extremely difficult. And I'm saying something like, yeah, just climb Mount Everest. But there are ways to be true to yourself and true to your values. And it's extremely heartening that the younger people are doing just that. And I hope that it grows and grows. And I would say it's underreported by things like this because they don't want the bandwagon effect. They don't want other men going, hey, you mean we can actually have standards? Yeah, you can, and you should. But men have been taught for so long that they're not valuable, that they're disposable, that they need to serve women. And it's just lies. It's just the snake telling you that stuff. Just lies, and women telling you that stuff and dangling the hanky-panky and, casting spells over you. Not literally, although maybe literally. Using their feminine wiles. And you got to guard against that because it's a trap. All right, let's read more of this and see what more they have to say. The conservative men, I skipped. Among Gen Z, the political polarization between men and women showed itself prominently during the 2024 presidential election. Yeah, that laid it bare too. We've had a couple of layers of realization. On election day, Gen Z men turned out for Trump, with 49% of them voting for him and 47% voting for Harris, according to NBC News exit polling. Now, some of you guys might say, well, that's not very much. Yes, it is, because the young generation, historically, in recent history, has always been the lefty generation. They've always been moving to the left. And that has swung the other way. And I don't want people to think that, it's swinging the other way, it's good. No, we have to push it. You can't just let, it swings back and forth. No, let's push it and hold it. It's the only way, because the left just erodes and erodes, and evil never sleeps, according to NBC exit polling. Trump also gained ground with Gen Z women, though that same exit polling showed 61% of these voters still went for Harris. Now, why are younger women, even though they're primarily lefty, why would they move a little to the right? Because as I've been saying, women love male attention. You guys know that. That's obvious, right? Women love male attention. They want to be desired by men. And if the men start saying, I don't want to see immodest women, I don't want to see impure women, all of those things, if they start to do that, guess what the women will do? They will start to change. They will. That is part of our nature. And it's something nobody wants to talk about. We don't want to admit it, but it's true. Case in point, when I was younger, I thought that, like many people, I thought that guys just, all they want was hanky-panky, and they don't care about families. You almost have to trick them into having families. That's what I thought. I had no idea about men. No idea. Neither do most women. And so I thought that's how you have to be, if you want to be popular or whatever. And that was tricky because I'm shy and I don't feel comfortable dressing in any type of way like that. Like right now, I'm like, okay, my shirt is just baggy, but I don't want it slipping down. So I thought, well, nobody's going to want me. You know what I mean? That's what I thought. But I couldn't have been more wrong. And the men are finally like, yeah, it excites our eyeballs and it tempts us, but that's not a good thing. And so then what are the women going to do? Well, you've seen these trad wives and, that sort of, it's like a caricature that a lot of them are doing. But why would they do that rather than, take clothes off? Why would we have the OF chicks, right? And they're still doing their thing. But why are some of them moving towards the trad wife look and everything, even though it's still a caricature and it's not really real yet for most of them? Why would they be moving that way? Because we follow the men. We are wired to follow you. We just are. There are just some things in nature that are true. And I know a lot of you guys are going to be like, no, you're not. You never want to. Yes, we do. Think about back in history. What women do to get male attention. What if you were only to give attention to the women who deserved it? Things would really change. Straighten up. The conservative swing among young men hasn't been lost on daters either. Quote, I have seen an uptick in men displaying that they're conservative, Shea says. That's right. Unapologetic. This is true even in liberal dating markets, says Kimberly Bizu, a 28-year-old who hosts Rich Little Broke Girls, a podcast about modern womanhood. Bizu, who identifies as center-left, says that even in blue cities, many young men hold conservative views, even if they don't discuss them. Quote, a lot of people in New York, in LA, they wear these liberal masks socially while still holding more conservative views behind closed doors. Right, because you get fired. You'll get canceled. You'll get fired. I don't think that's going to stop us going forward, though. That's what's very exciting. Bizu says, I know some of my friends who are likely conservative would never admit it publicly. You see that with celebrities. All of a sudden, there are some coming out that are like, hey, I'm conservative. Because the tide turned. And as soon as it gets to be okay for us to say, hey, I believe in God. Hey, I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right. The more and more, it just grows. And that's what's happening. Right-leaning men have noticed the divide too. Wynne Howard, a former U.S. Marine Corps infantry officer who's now getting a dual master's at Georgetown University, re-entered the dating scene in February after getting out of a long-term relationship. Though he's on the dating app Hinge, he says he rarely uses it, preferring to meet women in person, where it's easier to get to know someone beyond the limited information on a dating app profile. That really destroys the argument that men are all about how pretty she is or whatever, because that is not true. It's actually not true. And I know I'm telling you guys, so you're like, no, it's not true. But women don't know that. Women really don't know that. And more than ever before, I really want to reach young women. I have felt a strong pull towards that. And I'm so excited because last night we had Samantha, Michelle, and Dawn all in our chat. And I'm like, yay, 3 women. Maybe there were other women here that we didn't know about who didn't chat. So if you are a woman, please comment, be in the chat. It would be great. We need to learn more about men and respect them and not think that they're just, predators, want to control us, chain us in the kitchen or whatever. This is not true. It's not true. Most of them are wonderful. They really are. Still, quote, I have noticed on the dating apps, probably more often than not, I come across female profiles that will have their political view, he says. And in DC, I feel like I definitely come across liberal more often. Oh, yeah, for sure, in that town. Howard, who is 30 and labels himself center-right, says he's open to dating liberal women and believes finding common ground is an important part of dating. No, Howard, no, do not do it. I saw a college student ask a question of Charlie Kirk one time. And he said, I'm in this relationship. I'm conservative. She's liberal. he wanted to marry her. And Charlie unequivocally was like, don't do it. You need to have common core values. You need to have that same worldview in that way. And he's like, I'm sorry to tell you, but it's not going to work. And I'm so proud in that moment that he didn't, like, oh, well, la, la, la. Nope, it's not going to work. Don't do it. It's because men will make a compromise. Men are the ones who compromise for women because she's sweet or she's nice or whatever. If the value system isn't there, doesn't matter how she's acting. Because as soon as times get tough, and they do get tough because this is life, that's when things will really go crazy. And how do you raise your children? She's going to dominate those things. Quote, I am still a huge, huge proponent and believer in bipartisanship and meeting in the middle. Those days are over, sir. And that's how the two-party system is supposed to work, he says. So that is how I approach dating. I think just because someone is on the left and I'm more towards the right, that's not a deal breaker for me. Uh-oh. Did you notice? The woman talking was like, I will not date a conservative. And he's like, well, it could work out. But that's where you get into trouble. That's a huge, giant, more than a red flag. That's being suffocated with the red flag. Should liberals and conservatives date each other? No. It's like, no, that's the end of the article. That's all you need to say. Relationship experts agree it's certainly possible for people with opposing political... That's Thomas the Train. Relationship experts agree it's certainly possible for people with opposing political views to have a thriving romance, so long as they still share core values and treat each other with respect. Like I said, when you disagree with her, she's going to say you don't respect her, especially if she's on the left. And you can't have the same core values. It's left and right is no longer, and maybe it never was, about, oh, how I think the taxes should be. What do I think about tariffs? It's not about that. These are social issues, because that's how they get the women to vote on the left. That's how they get the women to vote left. Social issues. We're not so much the taxes and numbers and economy stuff. See how I'm even talking about it? We don't think like that. We think, oh, those poor people. We think love is love. And we're afraid to say, no, it's not. Because we don't want to seem like we're not nice. The nice people are on the left. And I think the right is done tolerating it because it's not nice. A lot of the things are immoral. Here we go, back to the Bizou woman. For Bizou, she says it's important to get to know someone beyond politics. After all, she says, most people don't fall neatly into conservative and liberal categories. She finds that acknowledging this nuance can be a good way to find commonality while holding fast to your values. Quote, honestly, when someone has a bigoted opinion super early on, it typically... Is this the Bizou woman? Honestly, when someone has a bigoted opinion super early on, it typically and usually comes from either the far right to the far left. She says, at that point, it's less about politics and it's more about this complete lack of nuance or compassion. There's that compassion. Oh, those poor people. Make sure you're virtue signaling so everybody knows you're a nice person. And for me personally, I just feel like if you're not curious or open to understanding different perspectives, then I'm not interested in building a deeper connection. If you don't want to listen to me and think I'm right because I think I said it really well, then you're a fill in the blank. This is how they think. This is how we think. And we don't even know that we think like that. That's the thing. The lack of self-awareness. I used to be on the left. I voted for Barack Obama 2 times. You know why? Yes, we can. Did I know what we can do? No. I just thought, yes, we can be nice. And the other side are a bunch of meanie heads. But I was not dealing in reality. I was in woohoo land. So I know how they think. I know why they're so staunch in it. And they think, much like Eve did, oh, God's just trying to keep something from you. Oh, men are just trying to keep something from you. Oh, God doesn't want this excellent thing for you. He doesn't want you to be like him. Sound familiar? Oh, men just want to keep something from you. They don't want you to be like them. Weird how familiar it is. It absolutely mirrors it. And that's a big reason you do not hear the actual story of the garden in most churches. They will water it down, as they welcome their female preacher up. I checked my old church online this morning, and it's a Methodist church in a small town. I haven't gone there in a very long time. I do not consider myself Methodist anymore. And they have a female preacher, which is absolutely disgusting to me. Did they mention Charlie Kirk at all? Did they allude to what a tough week it's been? No. And that is why I turned them on my television this morning, on my YouTube television, whatever. So I changed it to the church that my Gen Z friend, the 27-year-old now, Hannah's sister, Hannah the unicorn from, a few months ago that I covered on here, where she goes. And sure enough, as soon as the morning worship was over, preacher comes on there, starts talking about Charlie Kirk, called him an evangelist, talked about how difficult he was talking about it. Real different, huh? And I'm pretty sure the church that my friend goes to is not a 501c3, which means they're not beholden to the government. Because a 501c3 church, it's basically taking a bribe from the government. Now, why would the government do that? You think the government's benevolent and they just want to make churches tax exempt because, they're so kind? No, it's so they can take it away if you go a little too far. So just want to share that little story, a little bit left here. It's also important to remember Gen Z is still young, and many of its members could change their views with time. They're in their 20s. In my parents' generation, my mom got married at 18. Her mom got married even younger. But, a 25-year-old is still a kid. Really not. They are if they're not raised properly. And it's not really their fault at all. They have to pretty much raise themselves at some point. Because of this, Bizou encourages fellow Gen Zers to stay open-minded when it comes to dating. No, don't. No, hold to your values and have the standards. This is trying to tell men, you should compromise. Do you notice that? The woman, it's like, I will not date. And I didn't hear a lot of criticism with that. Then the guy's on there, and he's the bipartisan and reaching across the aisle and all that baloney. And I find it hard to believe. It's really hard to believe a Marine Corps guy. They make it up. They make some of this stuff up, but that's not the point. You can still read a lie tells a lot. There is a lot of truth in the lies people tell. Quote, be open to understanding different perspectives, she says, especially Gen Z. We're only at the beginning, right? We're still building our careers and our networks. Families? Anywhere? Families? And I think it's way more important to open yourself up to the many fulfilling relationships as many fulfilling relationships as possible, even if that means like, hey, maybe we hold different political views, but we could definitely get something out of this relationship. That means it's disposable. That means it's just for fun. It's completely surface level. And the people who want surface level things are the people who are surface level. They care about pleasure, hedonistic, humanistic. And that's what the snake said basically in the garden. It was basically choose yourself. The snake didn't say, hey, you should worship me. Hey, you should follow me. Pay attention to that. The snake never said, follow me. Snake said, follow yourself. Basically, do as thou wilt. It's all about me, 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 me. It's all about my pride. So be wary of that, because those who are follow my pride and follow myself and my desires and everything, and that's very surface level, they're actually following evil. And the Gen Z men are recognizing this. And I hope that they recognize it even more this week, because one of the lessons out there is how horribly disturbing these other people are. And they are primarily women saying these things. And happy to report that they're losing their jobs. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with it. We just can't have some things. And it's high time that we started to require people to have good character and stop saying, do as thou wilt. So when the Gen Z men stand strong, when any men stand strong in this, society does follow. Any society has always followed strong, very convicted men. And it's all a matter of which way they're convicted. And Gen Z is truly a hope. Because we've all been saying this is the fall of the West, everything's falling. Gen Z men are, in a way, leading the way. And I see millennials and Gen Xers stepping up too. You saw it in the march yesterday in London. Mostly men carrying St. George flag and the Union Jack, and even pictures of Charlie Kirk and American flags saying R.I.P. Charlie Kirk. It gives me hope to see you strong men saying what you believe, speaking truth. So I can smile because you guys are still out there. Christendom exists. And it always will. Because there will always be men like you at the helm. So on that note, make sure you protect your peace. Feed your souls. Make sure you tune in over on Literary Archaeology tonight at 8 o'clock, where we seek truth, goodness, and beauty. Feed your souls. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.